Daniel Lacalle is with us. You've seen him once, chief economist at Tressis Gestion. Is it going to work, Daniel? Is it going to call off the dogs? Will the bond market vigilantes go away?
It's very, very difficult. And the reason why it's very difficult is because it's not this government's fault. The Macri inherited an economy in which the previous government doubled government spending to GDP, increased money supply monstrously, getting to an inflation of 30%. Increasing money supply by 30%, printing pesos like there's no tomorrow, and left this massive fiscal and monetary hole. That now it's very, very difficult to correct. So the previous government doubled government spending to GDP. He's going to cut it by 0.7%. They call it austerity. It is unfortunately not. And the problem continues to be the elephant in the room, which is exactly the same problem in Turkey, which is that the central bank continues to print, in the case of Turkey, liras, in the case of Argentina, pesos, massively to pay for a bloated government spending and subsidies and all types of handouts, while reserves are falling because all those taxes that they are increasing, all those limits to growth that they are putting are not working. So you lose your reserves, you print more money, inflation goes through the roof. It's unfortunately a very difficult one. And before the Central Bank of Turkey, the Central Bank of Argentina were betting on a weak dollar, inflow of dollars, cheap money, party like it's 1999. Guess what? That's gone.
So what happens from here for emerging markets? Because we keep talking about them all together, despite the fact that Argentina might be a specific example, Turkey might be a different one altogether, a homegrown crisis, but yet the sell-off has swept right across a lot of the EM currencies.
Yeah.
What do you make of what investors are seeing? Is it too much pessimism at this point?
I don't think that there's too much pessimism because it comes from too much optimism. And it comes from too much optimism. We've seen years of inflows into emerging markets, betting on a growth that is being revised down, betting on a weak dollar, betting on very low interest rates. And now that the tide is turning, we start to see some problems. I think that the way to look at it is to look at which countries have increased their imbalances more in the last years. Brazil, India, Argentina, Turkey, all these countries that have taken a fiscal stance towards deficits, towards trying to grow more than they could actually, and at the same time increasing their imbalances, are the ones that are suffering. So I think that we have to be at least cautious because the pace of rate hikes is not changing, but at the same time you have a massive maturity wall in emerging markets, in the dollar debt that at the same time is being more difficult to repay as the environment gets a little bit less exuberant. It's not about recession. It's about basically less optimistic expectations of growth and less expectations of growth in an environment in which Brazil, India, Argentina, Turkey, all those countries went into massive imbalances, particularly in 2017. You have a bad combination, in my opinion.